So a moment that will, regardless of how you feel about it, is going to be remembered in the history books, did happen yesterday. That is, the President of the United States has officially been impeached on 2 articles of impeachment. Now, he's done being impeached. The House has sole power to impeach, and so they impeached him. Now it's going to go to the Senate. They're going to have a trial. I believe it's the Supreme Court Chief Justice who is the judge in that case, and then the Senate is the jury, and they're going to have their thing and see whether or not they're going to remove the president or not. You know, there's pretty much no chance of that happening, obviously. We all know that, right? Because the numbers are so lopsided, and it takes 2/3 of the Senate to be able to remove. So that's a lot of votes that you would need to flip. You need to flip, 18 votes or something, 16, 17, 18, something like that. So, the vote occurred, okay, yesterday. There was one vote, okay, that was a present. So what does present voting mean? It means you're not voting yes or no, but you're, voting. So you're essentially abstaining. It's the same thing as abstaining. So, that was Tulsi Gabbard, okay, Representative Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii. Now, as you guys know, Tulsi Gabbard has been incredibly wishy-washy on this whole topic from the jump on impeachment. She kind of flip-flopped as to whether she even supported an inquiry and then an impeachment and all of this stuff. And surprisingly, and I was definitely surprised by this, AOC actually went after Tulsi Gabbard, which is pretty surprising to me. I certainly did not expect this, just because it seemed a bit random. Now, I actually don't know, now that I'm thinking of it, I really don't know what the relationship between AOC and Tulsi Gabbard is. I feel like Ro Khanna and AOC are buddies. I don't know how close Tulsi and AOC are. I'm really not sure, to be quite frank with you. And she responded to this by saying, "Today was very consequential, and to not take a stand one way or another in a day of such grave consequence to this country is quite difficult." She says, we're sent here to lead. Now, there's already a group of loonies on YouTube/Twitter who are Tulsi Gabbard fans, who, and it's not just being a Tulsi Gabbard fan, it's being a Tulsi Gabbard stan, or a sycophant, if you will. And as I've explained to you guys, this is all a really big waste of time, because Tulsi Gabbard can't even crack 2-point average in the Real Clear Politics polling average aggregate of the polling data. So what that means is she has no chance to win, but we keep talking about her supporters as well as her. And I will get to the overarching point of why it is that she did this later on. But, and this is super expected, right? We've made multiple videos recently talking about how Jimmy Dore is very, very, very obsessed, addicted with Tulsi Gabbard, okay? And I didn't get to make a video on this, less than 60 seconds into Jimmy Dore's interview with Zhang Zhuger, he brings up Tulsi Gabbard within less than 30 seconds. Less than 60 seconds. So I'm low-key starting to think they might have a contract. Obviously, it's a joke, but you get the absurdity of that. So he responds saying, "Sad to see AOC going along with Dem leadership instead of leading. While you were doing this, your party was helping Trump pass his legislative agenda and fast-track his judges. This BS opposition to Trump will help his poll numbers and his re-election chances." And so he's basically, going after AOC here, of course. You can't tell me that you didn't see this coming, right? Obviously, this was going to happen. But what I find hilarious about him talking about, fast-tracking his judges. Dude, I was just re-watching the Sam Seder and Jimmy Dore debate a couple days ago. And Sam Seder kept bringing up judges, especially in the Supreme Court. But what you have to understand is, judges aren't just appointed to the Supreme Court. There's other courts. There's federal courts. There's appellate courts. There's circuit courts, right? So Trump he's appointed 100 federal judges, okay? And so he brought that up to you, and you didn't even seem to care at all. So it's funny to me that you're trying to bring up judges now, as if you really give a shit about judges. Let's keep it real, dude. That's not something that you want to use in your argumentation, because that's something to be used against you here. But so he's basically saying that she should lead by, I guess, being in either the center or trying to do other stuff or something like that. I guess she's supposed to abstain from this, is what Jimmy Dore is trying to say. The thing is you can understand that what Trump did with Joe Biden was bad, while also saying that, the Democrats not crafting articles of impeachment that included the emoluments clause, for example, and some of the terrible things he's done in like Yemen, for example. You can say that that's dumb on the Democrats' part, and it is kind of like this sort of faux, anti-Trumpism, while also saying that, Donald Trump should be impeached for what he's done. He should be impeached for what he's done, obviously, and what he did with Joe Biden is not okay. It's not okay to do what he did, was trying to basically hedge the donations to, Ukraine, or the aid that we give to Ukraine, because I don't think Ukraine could survive without the U.S.'s support. So they're already in kind of a vulnerable position in that scenario. But this is just ridiculous, obviously. And then we get to the question of, why did Tulsi Gabbard vote this way? Okay, why did Tulsi Gabbard vote in the direction of voting present? She didn't even vote no, by the way. And I should make clear that AOC here seems to not even just be like disappointed with her possibly doing a no. It seems more like Tulsi or AOC is mad that she didn't take a stand one way or the other, according to this quote. But although I'm sure if she said no, she would also be surprised. But the reason why she did this, and she put out a 4-minute response video on Twitter, and The Hills Rising came out immediately and said, "Oh, we're gonna have her on tomorrow." It seemed like all of that was pre-planned in terms of like going on The Hills Rising the following day. All of that seemed to be preconceived, to me at least. It looked like they kind of knew what was going to happen in terms of backlash, and they had already had that interview set up so that they could, have an explainer or whatever. But what she's doing is for two reasons, right? One of them is it's a publicity stunt, okay? Remember, she's the only one who voted present, okay? I thought she wasn't even going to vote. I thought she wasn't going to be there. But she was the only one out of the entire House of Representatives, okay, to actually vote present. The only one, literally the only one, sole human being in the Congress who did that, okay, in the House that did that. So that gives her a lot of attention. And then everyone starts this backlash. She starts to get sympathy from right-wingers, and that leads into my second point, which is that she's doing her best not to alienate right-wingers who support her. Because if you look at her tweets, it's honestly like half and half, or maybe even like 60-40 right-wingers who support her. They make comments like, "Oh, you're the only, as a conservative, you're the only Democrat that I can stomach, or you're the only Democrat that I can like." And so, she's trying to maintain that, right? There's a lot of, I think there's a lot of conservatives, and I know this, there's a lot of conservatives who, like Tulsi Gabbard, and so she was already in a rough patch, because I remember when she had said, "Oh yeah, I am pro-impeachment inquiry / impeachment," the impeachment process, her Republican fans started to get angry at her. So that's what she's keeping in mind. So it's this mix between having this publicity stunt, which she's very good at apparently, or at least she's very good at coming up with new ways to do publicity stunts, is what I should say. Her publicity stunt with, "Oh, I'm gonna boycott the debate," in a similar way that, I'm boycotting the NFL Combine or something like that, things that obviously aren't going to happen. She seems to be pretty crafty at coming up with these sort of random publicity stunts. And so I guess it's an attempt to generate attention, as well as, not alienate her supporters from the right. She seems to be big on centrism, and she ends off her explanation video about this issue by basically saying that, I'm in the center and I want to lead and heal the country and all this nonsense and whatnot. Talking about how it's all partisan, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de, of course. And it's pretty tiring. It's pretty sickening, to be honest. Seems pretty useless to me. Quite useless, if I do say so myself. But her fans are incredibly annoying, I have to say, and I have to repeat that, it's kind of a waste of time that we're spending this much time on such an irrelevant candidate. Again, to repeat, as of right now, she's lower than 2 points in the RCP average, folks. Lower than 2 points, okay? That's horrifyingly bad. She has no chance of winning. She doesn't have a chance of winning the election. Bernie Sanders does. And so when Jimmy Dore puts out stuff like this, and if you say anything about Tulsi Gabbard, her moron fans. By the way, Nico House, who's the crazy guy, he's going off on Emma Vigeland and like losing his mind. That guy's got to get himself checked. Obviously, I don't know what's going on with that dude, but those are the responses you're gonna get. And I see them starting to attack Bernie now as if that's like some a successful strategy in terms of either helping Tulsi or just not looking like a moron. Because no matter what you say about Bernie, Bernie has an actual shot of winning. Tulsi Gabbard has no shot of winning and therefore is completely irrelevant. So, Jimmy Dore coming out to defend her is not surprising. Jimmy Dore hasn't really done all that much of AOC support, I think, for a while now. Obviously he did in the beginning, but he had gone after AOC immediately after she had won her election. Typical Jimmy Dore type stuff, right? Someone does something progressive, and then you jump in your basement, and then you yell at them for something. It's a very typical Jimmy Dore thing to do, right? Not really care about pushing the progressive movement or anything like that. But what I'm gonna end off this video with is just telling you that I cannot wait till Tulsi Gabbard is out of this election, and I can't wait till she's out of politics, because to be quite frank with you, her fans suck, they're really toxic, and they're a bunch of losers.